Not just Arsenal. Now there's a familiar face on the block that Pep Guardiola has to be worried about. Except they're not so familiar anymore, and that's because the new man at the dugout for Liverpool could very well become Pep's kryptonite. Pep now has every reason to fear the man. The rest of the league already does. Arne Slot has had a more than decent start to his tenure as the new Liverpool manager. 5 wins out of 6 in the league have them in first place, and 4 clean sheets. Liverpool looks different, and that's because of the tactical system Slot is employing. Arne Slot wants Liverpool to control the game rather than just attack it, and by this Liverpool has now transitioned from the heavy attacking football they played under Klopp to a more possession-based style of play with Slot. They're keeping the ball more and using quick passes to tear apart the opposition. They're also not taking as many risks going forward and leaving them open to counterattacks. 4 clean sheets in the first 5 league games show it. I mentioned Liverpool being first in the league, and that's because they're ahead of a familiar face at the top even with 6 games played. Pep Guardiola's Manchester City, the dominators of the Premier League, are currently behind Liverpool. City's dominance has been outlined by the fact that they always seem to get the job done, even when they look like they're down and out. This late goal against a dogged Arsenal team kept the unbeaten run going. But this season though, it'll be different, because with Arne Slot, Pep is about to experience something he's never come up against in his managerial career. Arne Slot is just like him, and yet he's so different. From a tactical standpoint, Arne Slot's idea of keeping possession and dominating the game seems similar to Pep's philosophy. Everyone knows Pep and City like to dominate teams from start to finish. Quick movements with the ball, passing quickly to open lanes down both flanks, finding the spare man, overloading the opposition's half. We've seen Pep do this on multiple occasions. We're also seeing Slot do it too. But with Arne Slot, the minor differences make it major. Pep's key tactic when attacking is the use of positional play. This basically means players taking up different positions to create multiple options that allow them to progress the ball into the opposition's half. Using the system, Pep makes sure his players use the entire width of the pitch to stretch the opposition, and he's got the personnel to do it. Down the wings, players like Jack Grealish are a perfect example of how Pep employs positional play. Jack Grealish will more often than not hug the touchline, and by doing so he's stretching the game. He has to get closed down, or else the opposition risks being exposed. Down the right, City has a player in Savino who equally does the same job. They've also got Jeremy Doku as well. Pretty sure you get the idea by now. These players stay out wide and look to draw the opposition in. Slot does make use of positional play, and using the same example as we did with Pep, we can see the difference. Under Slot, the wide men at Liverpool aren't exactly wide men anymore. Take for instance a player like Luis Diaz. Feels as though he's been reborn under Slot, and it's all down to the positional play tactic. Slot wants his wide men to act as auxiliary number 10s. And what this means is, unlike City's system of keeping the wide men wide, the Liverpool wingers have the freedom to now come, invert if you like, and get much more involved in the play, instead of isolating themselves out wide. An example of this is Luis Diaz's second goal against Manchester United. Watch where he ends up, almost as a centre forward, and on paper he was starting down the left. Similar positional play, and yet it's different. Pep and Slot also make use of zones on the pitch, but they do it differently. Under Pep, City's fullbacks invert. We kind of know this already, but it's how they invert that causes the problem most times. They invert into the half space, whether it's Kyle Walker or Rico Lewis down the right, or Josko Vardiol, or Nathan Ake down the left. They end up centrally in these half pockets, trying to cause damage to opposition teams. More often than not, it's successful. The half spaces are also called zones. Pep's City team always try to build a numerical advantage in the intervention zone, which is down the wings. With Arne Slot though, it's once again different. The main part of Slot's attacking play is centered around a particular zone, and that's Zone 14. The area just behind the opposition's penalty box, and Slot tries to use this area to hurt the opposition. Now the idea of Zone 14 goes way back. For instance, in France's 1998 World Cup winning campaign, 81% of their goals scored in that campaign came from this zone. Operating down that space was Zinedine Zidane. With the rise of modern-day tactics, everyone kind of just focused on different areas of the pitch away from this zone. but Slot's bringing it back. When Liverpool attacks now, they look to create as many overloads as they can centrally. The three in midfield now operate as a double pivot, and an attacking midfielder in Dominic Szoboszlai, who is the key to this zone. His ball-playing abilities, neat touches, and ability to spot a final ball make him key to all of this. It's not that Liverpool don't use the wings anymore, but Slot's bringing what modern-day tactics seem to have forgotten: the use of a number 10. By overloading this zone with his best creative players in midfield, it opens up multiple options. The ball can either be played into a winger down each flank, slip in the centre forward with a through ball on goal, wait for one of the advancing midfielders or the number 8 to make a run in behind, or even take a shot from the position. Like Pep, Slot is a huge fan of Johan Cruyff. He's built his game around his principles, total football. Starting from the back, both Slot and Pep prefer to use goalkeepers who are comfortable playing with the ball, and they're fortunate enough to have that. With Ederson, it's like having an extra midfielder in goal. His range of passing is unbelievable. At Liverpool, Alisson isn't far behind. Heck, he might not even be behind at all. While City pushes up very high and keeps the opposition pinned in, the only real danger is on the counter-attack. Like this, when teams use speedy breakaways to counter them to deadly effect, it's a flaw in City's defense. Seems Slot understands this, and that's why he's gone for a more calmer approach. Liverpool don't push as high, and they're now defending as a unit. 4 clean sheets in 6 games, the number of clear-cut chances they're conceding per game has reduced as well. This was a worrying trend for Liverpool last season, but with Slot, that defense looks solid now. You're probably thinking, if they're both that similar, then why should Pep fear Slot? Well, it's because he's a combination of his biggest strengths and his biggest fears. Slot makes it no secret that he's a massive Guardiola fan, but that doesn't mean he's one of them. Well, who's them? These guys. Mikel Arteta, Vincent Kompany, Erik ten Hag, and Enzo Maresca are all students of Pep's philosophy, current coaching teams in the top 5 European leagues. The reason these guys were highlighted is because, well, they're Pep's prodigies. And in this case, the student hasn't been better than the master. When Kompany's Burnley team came to the Etihad, they got beat clean. Despite a 1-0 win last season and 2 draws after that, Arteta's Arsenal team has fallen short in the title race to City for the last 2 seasons. Erik ten Hag's biggest achievement over City was a 2-1 win in the FA Cup last season. Other than that, it's even a very one-sided rivalry in the Manchester derby, with Pep and City dominating. And for all his achievements at Leicester City, in his first acid test as Chelsea's new boss, Enzo Maresca lost 2-0. So why is Slot different from these guys? He admires Pep, but that doesn't mean he follows the same tactics as the man does. As we've highlighted so far, there are similarities to how they both set their teams up, but the differences are wide apart, and it makes Slot and his Liverpool team a very dangerous opposition.
That the differences are not that big, so there are only small differences between Jurgen and me, and the general idea of how we want to play football is of course.
Know what Slot just said here. The general idea of his style of playing and Jurgen Klopp's is very similar. And seeing how true this is, it definitely has Pep worried. Since he came to the Premier League, Liverpool is the one team he's been scared of because he knows Liverpool is going to attack his team hard. They never give in. See guys, to Pep, Slot is a proper challenger, one he's never had. He's coming up against a guy who's taken the good side of his tactics and implemented them in how his team plays. And the same guy also uses not too different tactics to the manager and team he's been scared of. It's a mix he might not know how to deal with. Manchester City always find a way. They've done it for the last 4 years in the league, but this time it doesn't feel certain. The feeling in the Liverpool camp is good. They now understand the manager's tactics and the players look sharper than ever. Slot has amazing squad depth now. Players like Darwin Núñez, Cody Gakpo, and new signing Federico Chiesa can't get a place in the starting lineup because the form players like Luis Diaz, Mohamed Salah, and Diogo Jota have been so good they can't be left out. In City's case, while the attack looks sharp with Erling Haaland on a monstrous goal-scoring streak, the midfield just suffered a huge blow. If the reports are true, then Rodri might be out for the rest of the season. Losing a player like Rodri is a huge blow to Pep's plans. Slot, on the other hand, has a midfield revelation everyone can't stop talking about, Ryan Gravenberch. He's been sensational this season, and it's all thanks to a new tactic Slot is using that's getting the best out of him. Hit the next video to find out the hidden truth about Ryan Gravenberch nobody is noticing.